Back in the 1970s, just as Hollywood was starting to notice Meryl Streep's talent, she fell in love with someone who was already a legend, John Cazale. They met in 1976 while doing a play in Central Park, and from the very first scene, there was an instant spark. The only thing he talked about was her, remembered actor Marvin Starkman. Streep was just as captivated. He wasn't like anybody I'd ever met, she said, drawn to his unique blend of compassion, curiosity, and warmth. Despite Cazale's established reputation, they were still struggling artists navigating the streets of New York together, sharing intimate dinners in Little Italy, where Cazale's role as Fredo in The Godfather earned them free meals. Their romance moved quickly, as did their bond, soon finding themselves living together in Cazale's Tribeca loft. They were the talk of the theater world, a naturally gifted actress and a soulful, revered performer. But in 1977, their love story took a heartbreaking turn. What began as a promising romance would become a tale of loss that forever altered the course of Streep's life and career. Before we dive into the details, don't forget to follow our channel. Meryl Streep's career shines brighter than almost anyone else's in Hollywood. With a record number of Oscar nominations and unforgettable performances, she seems to have it all. But beneath the glittering success lies a hidden wound, a moment of profound loss that nearly derailed her life. In 1978, just as her career was beginning to soar, everything changed. On the brink of stardom, with endless opportunities ahead, her world came crashing down. Her partner, John Cazale, had fallen gravely ill, and as his condition worsened, the future they had envisioned began to slip away. The experience left a lasting mark on Streep, shaping not only her life, but the person and actress she would become. It all happened so suddenly. One moment, Meryl Streep and John Cazale were the envy of the New York theater scene, their days filled with rehearsals and their nights spent sharing dreams of the future. But then, out of nowhere, Cazale began to feel unwell. At first, it seemed like nothing serious, just a persistent fatigue, maybe a lingering cold. But as weeks went by, his condition only worsened. What started as a few missed rehearsals soon turned into doctor's appointments and tests that brought devastating news. Cazale had terminal lung cancer, and it had already spread throughout his body. He was working on The Deer Hunter with Robert De Niro. The studio didn't want to continue working with Cazale due to his illness. De Niro stepped in, vowing to quit the film if they fired John. He also used his status to cover Cazale's medical insurance and provide money to Meryl for expenses. Robert's selfless act allowed them to finish the film. Meanwhile, Meryl Streep was just beginning to get noticed in Hollywood, while Cazale was already a legend. Known for his unforgettable roles in films like The Godfather and Dog Day Afternoon, he was considered one of the most talented actors of his generation. "I learned more about acting from John than anybody," Al Pacino said, describing him as not only a brilliant performer, but also a beloved friend. "All I wanted to do was work with John for the rest of my life. He was my acting partner." Cazale's career was nothing short of remarkable. Every film he appeared in was nominated for Best Picture, a testament to his extraordinary talent and the depth he brought to each role. Hollywood may have been calling for Meryl Streep, but her world had narrowed to a hospital room, where every moment was a reminder of what they were losing. It wasn't just the end of a career. It was the end of a life that had barely begun. As John Cazale's condition worsened, Meryl Streep's world became a delicate balance of hope and despair. She threw herself into caring for him, refusing to let the diagnosis define their time together. Every day was a struggle against the inevitable, but she remained determined to make each moment count. There were days when his condition seemed stable, when they could still talk and laugh, even if it was just for a little while. But more often, Streep found herself watching helplessly as the man she loved grew weaker. Cazale, once so full of life, now struggled to perform even the simplest tasks. His energy was dwindling, and the vibrant actor who had once captivated audiences with his intense, soulful performances was slowly disappearing. Yet, in spite of his physical decline, Cazale's spirit remained unbroken. He insisted he would get better, even when the odds were against him. And Streep, though heartbroken, never let him see her despair. She was his constant support, taking on a kind of quiet strength that masked the turmoil inside. Her career was affected too. She took on roles she wouldn't have otherwise considered, simply to stay close to John or to cover the mounting medical bills. She once described a part as just the girl in the movie, far from the dynamic characters she longed to portray. Yet she pressed on. It was the only way to maintain some semblance of normalcy in a world that was falling apart. Meanwhile, friends like Al Pacino would step in to help, driving Cazale to his treatments and sitting in the waiting room, hoping for a miracle. But the reality was undeniable. John was fading. As Meryl poured her heart into caring for him, she found herself grappling with a grief that felt almost too big to contain. Her letters to close friends revealed a deep exhaustion, not just from the physical toll of caregiving, but from the emotional weight of trying to stay optimistic when the end seemed near. The end came in the early hours of March 12, 1978. John Cazale's battle with cancer had reached its final stage, and despite all the treatments, the inevitable could no longer be delayed. When the moment arrived, even Meryl's strength couldn't prevent what was to come. The room fell silent, and with it, a piece of Meryl's world shattered. In the aftermath, the emptiness was overwhelming. She called John's brother, her voice trembling, and simply said, "I tried." There were no words to capture the loss, just a heavy, aching void where John used to be. The apartment they had shared felt unbearably quiet, and everyday things, packing his belongings, seeing his favorite chair, were constant reminders of the life that had been torn away. The loss of John Cazale left a wound that would never fully heal. For Meryl Streep, his death wasn't something she could simply move on from. It became a part of her, shaping who she was both on and off the screen. In the months that followed, she learned to live with the pain, letting it deepen her understanding of love and loss. It wasn't about forgetting. It was about carrying the memory forward. Despite the heartbreak, Streep found the strength to love again. Just months after Cazale's passing, she met sculptor Don Gummer, and though their relationship began as a friendship, it grew into something more. She once said that loving him didn't mean letting go of the past. It was about accepting that both the love she lost and the love she found could coexist. Through it all, Meryl learned that grief isn't something you overcome. It's something you live with. It changes you, shapes you, and if you let it, it can make you stronger. For her, John's memory remained a quiet presence, a reminder of a love that, although tragically short, had taught her more than a lifetime without it ever could. Meryl Streep is truly a legend. And today we've explored the story behind one of Hollywood's most iconic love affairs. If you enjoyed this journey into her life, make sure to follow Popstar Parade for more stories like this one.